My name is Kara Winslow, and I'm 32. For a long time, I thought the sign of a good relationship was how little noise it made. No shouting, no slammed doors, no dramatic texts, just two people moving through life like a well-practiced routine. Shared grocery lists, inside jokes, a hand on the lower back when you cross a street. That was what Grant Hollis and I looked like from the outside. Grant was the kind of man who could make strangers like him in under 5 minutes. The warm smile, the easy charm, the laugh that came from his chest like it was honest even when it wasn't. We'd been together 3 years, engaged for 8 months, and if you asked either of our families, they'd tell you it was a perfect match. I used to believe that too. We met through mutual friends at a backyard barbecue, plastic cups, late summer heat, someone's dog trying to steal burgers off a plate. Grant offered me a drink, asked what I did, actually listened to the answer. He remembered tiny details later, my coffee order, my sister's name, the fact I hate scary movies but pretend I don't. In the beginning, it felt easy, safe. And then, sometime after the ring, something shifted. Not all at once, not in a way I could point to and say, there, that's the moment it changed. It was more like a slow drip, a comment about my shoes when we were heading out. You're wearing those? Babe, you know we're not going to Target. He said it smiling, like he was teasing, like I was supposed to laugh and swat his arm. And I did, because in the moment, it felt smaller to pretend it didn't matter than to admit it stung. Then came the little jokes about my car, the way I liked casual restaurants, the way I didn't care enough about aesthetics. He'd say it with a grin. His friends would chuckle, and I'd hold my smile in place like a mask that started getting heavy. Grant always had a way of making it sound like I was the one who didn't get it. Relax, Kara, I'm kidding. You know I'm just messing with you. God, you're sensitive lately. And I'd tell myself, he's stressed. He's busy. Work has been brutal. Weddings are expensive. People snap. But somewhere deep down, I started noticing the pattern. The jokes always landed on me. The laughter always came at my expense. I didn't say that out loud, though, because saying it out loud would make it real. 3 months ago, on a Friday night, Grant decided to host a guys' night at our apartment. He'd been excited about it all week. Beer in the fridge, a game on the TV, food ordered from that overpriced place downtown he always insisted was worth it. I was supposed to be out with my own friends. Dinner, then maybe a movie. But my plans fell apart last minute. One friend got sick, another had to work late, and suddenly I was sitting in my car, staring at my phone like the universe had cleared its throat and said, "Go home." I told myself I'd just slip in quietly, grab something from the kitchen, and stay out of their way. I didn't want to be the fiancé hovering around the living room while a bunch of guys tried to pretend they didn't notice me. So I came home around 9 p.m., unlocked the door slowly, and stepped inside as if I was breaking into my own life. Their laughter hit me first, loud, careless, the kind of laughter that only exists when people feel safe being cruel. I could hear the TV, the clink of bottles, someone yelling at the screen. I started toward the kitchen, keeping my footsteps soft. And then I heard Grant's voice rise above the others. "Honestly," he said, "sometimes I think Kara should just date my cousin Julian instead. He actually has standards." For half a second, my brain didn't process it. It was like hearing your name in a dream, familiar, but wrong. Then the room erupted, a full rolling burst of laughter. One of his friends whistled. "Oh my God, Grant, that's savage." Grant laughed with them, not uncomfortable, not apologetic. "Am I wrong?" he said. "Julian would have her fixed in a week. Dudes like, raised on suits and wine tastings. He'd never let her walk out wearing those, what are they? Those chunky sneakers she's obsessed with." More laughter. My keys were still in my hand. My fingers went numb around them. Another voice chimed in. "Wait, isn't Julian the one who's all put together? The lawyer?" "Yeah," Grant said. "Corporate attorney, always sharp, always polished. And he's not out here thinking Olive Garden is a nice dinner." The words hit me so hard my stomach hollowed out. Because I had taken Grant to Olive Garden once, 2 years ago, because he'd casually mentioned craving breadsticks. I remembered it clearly because it was one of those ordinary nights that felt sweet. We laughed. We shared dessert. He held my hand over the table like he was proud to be there with me. And now he was using it as a punchline. Like I was embarrassing. Like I was something to upgrade. I stood in the hallway, unseen, with my heart beating so loudly I thought they might hear it. I waited for him to stop, for someone to say, "Hey man, that's your fiancé." But no one did, because this was the atmosphere he'd created. A space where mocking me wasn't just allowed, it was entertainment. I didn't storm in. I didn't cry out. I didn't throw open the living room door and demand an apology. I did something quieter. I backed up, slowly, carefully, like I was trying not to disturb an animal that might bite. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and walked to my car like a ghost. Then I sat there for 20 minutes, staring at my steering wheel, feeling the humiliation spread through my chest like ink in water. It wasn't just what he said. It was how easy it was for him to say it, how natural the cruelty sounded in his mouth. And then, because life has a twisted sense of timing, I thought about Julian. I'd met Julian at family gatherings more times than I could count. He was Grant's cousin on his mom's side. 30, calm, the kind of man who always made eye contact when you spoke, like your words mattered. Julian was quietly magnetic, not loud like Grant, not performative, just steady. And he'd always been kind to me. I remembered holiday dinners where Grant wandered off to talk to uncles and I ended up in the kitchen with Julian, discussing work and books and the weird politics of family dynamics. Julian would laugh softly at things I said, never at me. I also remembered the way he looked uncomfortable whenever Grant made those jokes, like he didn't know whether to step in or pretend he hadn't heard. Sitting there in my car, I realized something that made my throat tighten. Julian had probably been watching this happen longer than I had. My hands shook as I scrolled through my contacts and found his number, one we'd exchanged months ago when we were helping plan a surprise party for Grant's mom. I stared at the screen for a full minute, thumb hovering. Then I typed, "Hey Julian, it's Kara. I know this is random, but do you have time for a call? Something happened and I could really use an outside perspective." I expected him to take hours to respond. Maybe tomorrow, maybe never. Instead, 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with his name. I answered, and his voice came through warm and immediate. "Kara, hey, are you okay?" The concern in his tone cracked something open in me. I don't know," I admitted. "I just overheard Grant saying something to his friends and My voice caught. I hated that it did. "I need to tell someone before I convince myself I made it up." "Tell me," Julian said. No hesitation, no awkward laugh. So I did, word for word, as close as I could remember. The cousin comment, the standards, the sneakers, Olive Garden, the laughter. When I finished, there was silence on the line for a long moment. Then Julian exhaled, slow, controlled, like he was trying not to let anger spill into my ear. "Kara," he said quietly, "I'm so sorry." The apology wasn't dramatic, it was heavy, like he meant it. "You didn't deserve that," he continued. "And, for what it's worth, this isn't the first time I've noticed him talking about you like that." My chest tightened. "You've noticed?" "Yes," Julian said. "At family things, little comments. He'll say them like jokes, but they're not jokes, they're digs." His voice sharpened, just slightly. I pulled him aside once after a dinner and told him to cut it out. He brushed me off. A cold calm settled over me, because that meant it wasn't accidental. It wasn't a one-time slip. It was a habit. I swallowed. "Grant said I should date you instead." Julian made a sound, half laugh, half disbelief. "That's ridiculous, like you're a project someone needs to fix." "I feel stupid," I whispered, and I hated how small my voice sounded. Like I've been smiling through things that should have made me leave months ago. "You're not stupid," Julian said. "You've been trying to keep peace with someone who confuses peace with silence." That sentence landed so hard I closed my eyes. We talked for nearly an hour, about respect, about what it means when someone only loves you when you're convenient, about how humiliation doesn't have to be loud to be damaging. And somewhere in the middle of it, I realized I could breathe again. Not because the pain was gone, but because someone was finally naming it. Near the end, I heard myself ask, if I end this, am I overreacting? Julian didn't hesitate. "No," he said. "If anything, you've been underreacting. Kara, you deserve someone who builds you up when you're not in the room too." I looked at the dark apartment building in front of me, the windows glowing like nothing inside had changed. But I had. Because I wasn't going to walk back in and pretend I didn't hear what I heard. I wasn't going to laugh along while he practiced disrespect like a hobby. "Okay," I whispered, mostly to myself. Then, with my hand still trembling around the phone, I said the first honest thing I'd said all night. "I'm going back in, and I'm going to end it." Julian's voice softened. "Do you want me to stay on the line?" I stared at the building, at the door I used to walk through like it was home. "No," I said, "but thank you." I hung up, stepped out of my car, and started walking. Each step felt like a decision. Each breath felt like a boundary. And when I reached the door, I didn't tiptoe anymore. I turned the knob like I belonged to myself again. I walked back into the apartment like I was stepping onto a stage I hadn't agreed to perform on. The living room was still loud. Grant's friends sprawled across the couch, beer bottles sweating on coasters, the TV shouting sports commentary into the air. Someone laughed too hard at something that wasn't funny. Grant's laugh followed, warm and effortless, like he hadn't just cut me open in the hallway. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did and assumed I'd play my usual role. Smile, wave, disappear. I didn't say a word. I went to the bedroom, shut the door, and sat on the edge of the bed with my hands folded in my lap, like I was trying to hold myself together by sheer posture. My phone buzzed. A text from Grant, casual like a slap. "You home? We're in the middle of the game, Lowell." I stared at it until the letters blurred. Then I typed back, "Yes, we need to talk later, when they're gone." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "What's wrong?" I didn't answer. I stayed in that room for an hour, listening to the muffled sound of my fiancé entertaining people who thought I was a punchline. Every laugh felt like a reminder. This is what you've been swallowing. This is what you've been calling love. At some point, the game ended. I heard the shuffle of bodies, the scrape of a chair, the front door opening and closing in waves. Guys calling out, "Later, man," and "Tell Kara we said hi," like I was a friendly ghost in the walls. I waited until the apartment finally settled into silence. Then I walked out. Grant was in the kitchen, half loading the dishwasher, still wearing that relaxed expression people get when they think the night went well. He looked up and smiled like nothing in the world was wrong. "Hey, babe," he said. "I didn't know you were home. I thought your plans were—" "They fell through," I cut in. The smile stayed, but his eyes tightened. "Oh, okay." He gestured toward the counter. "There's leftover pizza if you want. We need to talk." 4 words. The same 4 words that make adults turn into children. Grant straightened slowly, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Okay, what's going on?" I watched him carefully. It was strange how I could see him now, like the lighting had changed. The same face, the same mouth, but suddenly I could picture those words coming out of it again. She should date my cousin instead. He has standards. I took a breath. "I came home at 9, I said. Grant blinked. "Oh, I didn't hear you." "I know," my voice was steady, almost clinical. "I heard you, though." He frowned, confused, still trying to stay in control of the moment. "Heard me? What?" I didn't soften it. I didn't ease him into it. I gave him the words back exactly as he'd given them away. Honestly, sometimes I think Kara should just date my cousin Julian instead. He actually has standards. The dish towel slipped from his hands. His face drained like someone had pulled a plug. For a full second, he just stared at me, mouth slightly open, as if his brain had stalled. Then his eyes darted around the kitchen like he could find an escape hatch in the cabinets. "Kara, wait." I kept going, because I'd learned something in those 20 minutes in my car. If I paused, he'd fill the silence with excuses. "You said Julian would have me fixed in a week. You made fun of my sneakers. You laughed about Olive Garden like I should be embarrassed that I took you somewhere casual because you wanted breadsticks." Grant's throat bobbed. And your friends laughed," I said. Not awkwardly, not uncomfortably. They laughed like it was the best part of the night. He found his voice in a rush, like panic had hit a switch. "I was joking," he said quickly. "Kara, come on. It was guys' night. It was stupid banter. I didn't mean it like that." "Like what?" I asked. Grant's eyebrows lifted, trying to turn it into confusion, trying to make my certainty look irrational. Like you're saying it," he said. "Like I was seriously—" He waved his hands, searching for the right spin. "Like I was attacking you. I wasn't attacking you." I looked at him, really looked. "Grant," I said softly, "if I said in front of my friends that you should date my cousin because she has standards, would that feel like banter?" His jaw tightened. "That's different." "How?" He hesitated because he knew the answer would expose him. "Kara." His tone shifted. A note of irritation threaded through. "You're making this bigger than it is." And there it was. The old pattern. Not apology, not shame. Minimize. Redirect. Blame the reaction. My chest rose and fell. I noticed how calm I still was. That shocked me, actually. I expected tears. Rage. A shaking voice. But what I felt was clarity. A clean, sharp line being drawn. "I'm not making it bigger," I said. "I'm hearing it for what it is." Grant's eyes flashed. "So what, you were eavesdropping?" I laughed once, short, humorless. I was walking to my own kitchen. He stepped closer, lowering his voice like he could negotiate the truth down to something manageable. "Okay, yeah, it was a stupid joke," he said. "But you know how my friends are. They rile me up. We say dumb stuff. It doesn't mean anything." "It means you're comfortable humiliating me," I said. Grant's mouth tightened. That is not what happened. It is, I replied. And it's not just tonight. His eyes narrowed. Oh, here we go. That phrase, here we go, like I was a predictable inconvenience. I nodded slowly. Yes, I said. Here we go. Because I've been swallowing little comments for months. I've been smiling through jokes that land on me every time. I've been pretending I'm okay with being treated like I'm unfinished. Like you're doing me a favor by being with me. Grant scoffed, as if I'd insulted him. Wow, he said, so now I'm the villain. I'm not calling you a villain, I said. I'm calling this relationship over. The words hung in the air, sudden and final. Grant's face froze. Then he laughed, one sharp sound like disbelief. You're breaking up with me over a joke? He snapped. I held his gaze. I'm breaking up with you over a pattern. The joke is just the first time I heard it clearly from your mouth. Grant shook his head, pacing once, like movement could shake this off. Kara, you're engaged to me, he said. We have deposits down. We have a date. Our families will survive, I said. He stopped and stared at me, eyes hardening. What is this? He demanded. Are you trying to punish me? You want me to beg? Fine. I'm sorry. There. Are you happy? The apology sounded like a dare, like I was supposed to accept it and move on and pretend it didn't matter. Something inside me settled. No, I said, I'm not happy, but I'm done. Grant's expression cracked, and for a split second I saw fear. Then the fear turned into anger. This is insane, he said. You're throwing away everything because you can't take a joke. God, Kara, Julian doesn't even... He stopped himself. But the name was already in the room now. Julian. The man Grant used as a comparison tool. The man Grant thought would fix me. I tilted my head slightly. Say it. Grant's nostrils flared. Forget it. No, I said. Finish the sentence. He stared at me, lips pressed tight. Then, quietly, like he couldn't help himself, he muttered, Julian doesn't even like you like that. The words were meant to sting. A final jab, even the guy you think is better doesn't want you. And I could have taken the bait. I could have said, that's not the point. I could have defended myself. But I didn't. Instead, I looked at him with a calm that made his anger wobble. That's what you took from tonight? I asked. Not that you hurt me, not that you disrespected me, but that you need to remind me I'm not desirable. Grant's mouth opened, closed. He didn't have an answer, because the answer was him. I picked up my keys from the counter, the same keys I'd been holding earlier like a weapon I didn't know how to use. I'm going to sleep somewhere else tonight, I said. Tomorrow, I'll come by while you're out and get essentials. We can talk logistics by text. That's it. Grant stepped forward, panic returning. Kara, wait, don't do this. You're being dramatic. Come on, we can talk. You don't get to talk your way out of this, I said. Not cruelly, just truthfully. Because you already talked. I heard you. I walked past him. He grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but enough that my skin turned cold. Don't leave, he said, voice low. Not like this. I looked down at his hand, then up at his face. And I realized something else, something small but devastating. He didn't look sorry. He looked cornered. I gently pulled my wrist free. I'm leaving because I finally stopped pretending, I said. That's all. Then I opened the front door and stepped out into the night air like it belonged to me again. I stayed at my friend Maya's place. Maya didn't ask for details right away. She just opened her door, took one look at my face and said, shoes off, blanket on, tea or wine. That kind of kindness almost broke me more than Grant's cruelty. I slept 3 hours. Woke up, slept again. Woke up with my heart racing, like I'd run a marathon in my dreams. In the morning, Grant texted, Can we talk like adults? Last night was stupid. You're overreacting. Call me. I stared at the messages until I felt my stomach twist. Then I typed back, I'll text about logistics. Please don't call. He responded immediately. So you're really doing this after everything? After everything. Like he was the one being abandoned. Like respect was something I owed him in exchange for the ring. I set my phone down and started making a list in my notes app. What I needed to pack, what mattered, what could wait. Because here's the thing about women like me. We don't fall apart first. We organize first. By noon, I went back to the apartment while Grant was at work. I moved quietly, methodically, like I was cleaning up the remains of a life I'd mistaken for love. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, documents, the little things that were truly mine. I paused at the closet where my dress hung, the one I'd planned to wear to a pre-wedding dinner. White tissue paper still folded inside the garment bag like an unopened promise. For a second, grief rose in my throat. Not for Grant, for the version of me who'd been excited. Then I zipped my suitcase and walked out. I left my key on the counter, and I didn't look back. The breakup was messy, but quick. exactly the way it is when one person is finished and the other is still trying to renegotiate reality. Grant swung between apology and blame. One day he'd text, "I'm sorry, I hate that I hurt you, I'll do better." The next day, "You're proving my point. You're too sensitive for marriage." He started calling me dramatic to anyone who would listen, as if labeling me could erase what he did. And yes, he told his family. I got a call from his mother 2 days later. "Kara," she said, voice tight with embarrassment, "I heard something happened. Something happened." That was how polite families referred to cruelty, like it was a weather event. I didn't give her the whole story. I didn't need to. She sighed. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm not defending him. I'm sorry." And then she surprised me. "You're still welcome at family events," she said, "no matter what he does. You were good to us." My throat tightened again, because that was the thing about Grant. He was charming, but he wasn't always kind. His mother knew the difference. That night, my phone buzzed again. A text from Julian. "Hey, I heard you and Grant ended things. Are you okay?" I stared at the message for a long moment. This time the tears came, not loud, not dramatic. Just a slow spill of something I'd been holding in for months. Because the truth was, I wasn't okay. But I was free. I texted back. "Not okay yet, but I will be. Thank you for last night." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Coffee this weekend? No pressure. Just, I want to make sure you're not carrying this alone." I swallowed. And for the first time since that hallway moment, something inside me warmed. Not romance. Not revenge. Just the unfamiliar feeling of being taken seriously. "Yeah," I typed back. "Coffee sounds good." And even as I hit send, a thought flickered. Small, dangerous, honest. Grant thought he was making me feel smaller. But all he did was push me toward the first person who reminded me what respect sounds like. The first time I met Julian for coffee, I almost didn't go. I sat in my car outside the cafe for a full 5 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, watching people come and go through the glass doors. Couples laughing, someone on a phone call, pacing, a woman pushing a stroller with one hand and scrolling with the other. Normal life. And there I was, freshly broken up, engagement ring still sitting in the side pocket of my bag like a secret I hadn't decided what to do with yet. I wasn't naive. I knew how this could look, from the outside, from Grant's perspective, from the judgmental corners of family gossip. She left him and immediately ran to his cousin. That wasn't what this was. At least it didn't feel like that from the inside. But feelings don't get to write the narrative alone. Eventually, I forced myself out of the car. Julian was already there, seated by the window, jacket folded over the back of his chair, coffee untouched. When he saw me, he stood, not dramatically, just instinctively, and smiled in a way that didn't ask me to be anything other than exactly what I was. "You okay?" he asked. I considered lying. Then I remembered how tired I was of that. "I'm better than I was," I said, still figuring out what okay looks like. He nodded. "That sounds about right." We talked for nearly 2 hours. Not about Grant at first, about work, about how strange it is when your future collapses quietly instead of exploding, about how adulthood teaches you that endings don't always come with villains, just incompatibilities you ignored too long. When Grant did come up, it was careful, honest, unembellished. Julian never defended him, never attacked him either. "He's always cared a lot about how things look," Julian said at one point, stirring his coffee absently. "I think he confuses image with value." I looked at him. "You don't." A pause. "No," he said, "I don't." That was the moment I realized something subtle but important. Talking to Julian didn't drain me. It didn't feel like walking through a minefield where the wrong word could start an argument or a joke at my expense. I didn't feel like I had to translate myself into something more impressive, more polished, more acceptable. I was just Kara. We agreed to take things slow. That was the phrase. Take things slow, spoken out loud, deliberately, like a boundary we both respected. No rushing, no labels, no rewriting history to make it cleaner than it was. Just honesty. Coffee turned into dinner the following week. Dinner turned into a movie after that. Not dates, exactly, but not nothing either. And every time I left his place, or he left mine, I checked in with myself. Is this about him, or is this about proving something? Every time the answer came back the same. This wasn't revenge. This was relief. Julian listened. He noticed things. He told me my sneakers looked comfortable, not embarrassing. He laughed when I suggested takeout instead of a nice restaurant and said, "Perfect. I hate pretending food is better just because it costs more." I didn't realize how much I'd been bracing myself in my own relationship until I wasn't anymore. A month after the breakup, we stopped pretending there wasn't something here. No big conversation, no announcement. Just one night, sitting on his couch after Thai food, when he reached for my hand and didn't let go. "Is this okay?" he asked. "Yes," I said, and meant it without qualification. We didn't tell anyone. Not his family, not mine. Not because we were ashamed, but because we didn't want the noise yet. We wanted something that belonged to us before it belonged to opinions. Then the family reunion happened. It had been planned months in advance. Grant's mom's side of the family, about 50 people, all converging on a rented pavilion at a state park outside the city. Kids, grills, folding tables, the whole thing. When Julian got the invitation, he mentioned it casually, like it was no big deal. "I'm going," he said. "Do you want to come with me?" I looked up from where I was folding laundry in his apartment. "As your date?" "Yes," he said simply. My stomach flipped. "Won't that be a lot?" I asked. "For everyone?" He smiled, not unkindly. "Probably." I hesitated, not because I didn't want to go, because I could already picture Grant's face, the confusion, the recognition, the story rewriting itself in his head, where I was suddenly the villain. "I don't want to cause a scene," I said. Julian leaned against the counter. "You won't. Existing isn't causing a scene." I exhaled slowly. "If you're comfortable," he added, "I'd really like you there, but it's your call." I thought about hiding, about declining politely, about making myself small again so other people wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Then I thought about that hallway, the laughter, the way Grant had spoken about me like I wasn't in the room. "I'll go," I said. We didn't tell anyone ahead of time. Julian didn't mention he was bringing me. I didn't warn anyone to brace themselves. We just showed up. Saturday afternoon, warm air, the smell of charcoal and sunscreen. Julian carried a cooler. I wore a simple sundress and my comfortable sneakers. He laced his fingers through mine as we walked toward the pavilion like it was the most natural thing in the world. The moment stretched. I spotted Grant across the space before he saw us, standing near his mother, mid-conversation, relaxed. Then his eyes landed on me. On us. The transformation was almost clinical. Confusion first, his brow furrowed, trying to place the image. Then recognition. Shock hit like a wave. His posture stiffened, mouth parting slightly. Anger followed, sharp and fast. And underneath it all, something softer flickered. Loss. The conversation around him died. People followed his gaze. Whispers sparked like static. Julian didn't slow down, didn't tighten his grip. He waved cheerfully at a group of relatives near the table. "Hey, everyone." Grant's mother noticed us then. Her eyes widened, but she recovered quickly, years of family diplomacy kicking in. "Kara," she said, "I didn't know you were coming." "Julian invited me," I said calmly. "I hope that's okay." "Of course," she said, though her glance flicked toward Grant, who looked like he'd been struck mute. An aunt nearby leaned in, eyebrows raised. "Well, this is interesting." Julian set the cooler down. "I'll grab us plates," he said to me quietly. Grant finally found his voice. "Can I talk to you?" he said. He was looking at me, not Julian. Julian didn't step back. "I don't think that's a good idea," he said evenly. "I wasn't talking to you," Grant snapped. Julian's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "She's here with me, so if you have something to say, you can say it in front of both of us." The pavilion went silent. Even the kids seemed to sense it. Grant's face flushed. "You're dating my cousin?" he demanded. "Are you serious right now?" I didn't raise my voice. "You told your friends I should," I said. So I listened. The words landed like a dropped plate. "That was a joke," Grant said sharply. "You're twisting it." "It wasn't funny," I said. "And you weren't joking when you said he had standards." Julian's hand tightened around mine. "And you were right," I continued. "He does." Grant stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time and hating what he found. "You're doing this to hurt me," he said. "No," I said. "I'm doing this because you already did." Grant turned to Julian. "How could you do this?" Julian didn't hesitate. "How could I date someone you treated badly and then lost?" He shrugged slightly, pretty easily. Grant's mother stepped forward, voice tight. "Okay, let's all take a breath. This is a family event." "I am being an adult," Julian said. "I'm just not apologizing for dating someone I care about." Grant's face twisted. He grabbed his keys from the table and walked away without another word. His mother followed him a few steps, then stopped. Came back 10 minutes later alone. "He's gone," she said quietly. The rest of the afternoon was strangely fine. Awkward, yes, but fine. People talked, ate. Kids ran around again. A few relatives pulled me aside to say they were glad I'd moved on, that Julian and I seemed happy. We stayed for 3 hours. When we left, Julian reached for my hand again. You okay? He asked. I nodded. For the first time since everything fell apart, I meant it. The fallout didn't wait for Monday. By Sunday morning, my phone felt heavier in my hand, like it knew what was coming before I did. Texts, missed calls, screenshots forwarded with no context. Grant hadn't just left the reunion. He'd detonated afterward. According to the family grapevine, he'd gone straight to his sister's place and spiraled. He told anyone who would listen that I'd betrayed him, that Julian had violated family loyalty, that I'd humiliated him on purpose by showing up with his cousin like it was some kind of performance. It was strange, hearing myself rewritten as a villain in a story I barely recognized. Julian heard it too, bits and pieces through calls from relatives who spoke carefully, like they were walking across thin ice. One aunt suggested we slow things down. Another implied that I should have known better than to attend at all. Someone used the phrase out of respect for Grant's feelings, like his feelings had ever extended far enough to cover mine. Julian listened to all of it with a calm that bordered on dangerous. Their confusing discomfort with wrongdoing, he said one night, tossing his phone onto the couch. People hate when consequences show up wearing a familiar face. I leaned back against him, exhaustion settling into my bones. I don't want to be the reason your family's divided, I said quietly. He looked down at me. You're not. He is. The internet, of course, had its own opinion. Grant's friends, the same ones who'd laughed, started leaving passive-aggressive comments under Julian's old Instagram posts. Nothing direct, just vague enough to deny if confronted. Loyalty matters. Family should come first. Some lines shouldn't be crossed. Julian didn't respond, didn't block them either. Silence drives them crazier, he said with a shrug. 2 weeks after the reunion, the tension peaked. It was a Tuesday evening. Julian and I were making dinner. Nothing fancy. Pasta boiling, music low, the windows cracked open to let the late summer air in. The doorbell rang. Julian frowned, not expecting anyone. He wiped his hands on a towel and opened the door. Grant stood there. His eyes were red, not irritated red, crying red. His shoulders slumped like he'd been carrying something heavy for too long and had finally decided to drop it at someone else's feet. I need to talk to you, Grant said. Julian didn't move aside. This isn't a good time. Then Grant's gaze shifted. He saw me. Of course he did. Something in his expression collapsed. Of course she's here, he said bitterly. She lives here now? Julian didn't flinch. We moved in together last week. That wasn't entirely true. We'd been spending most nights together, easing into shared space. But the effect was immediate. Grant's face crumpled. You already moved in together? His voice cracked. It's been what, 6 weeks? Almost 3 months since you and Kara broke up, Julian replied evenly. And what we do isn't your business. Grant laughed, a broken sound. He was my fiancé, he said to Julian. My fiancé. And you just swooped in. Swooped in? Julian's voice sharpened. You pushed her away. Grant turned to me then, eyes pleading. I made a mistake, he said. I was stressed. I said something stupid. One thing. And now I've lost everything. I stepped forward, standing beside Julian. You didn't lose me because of one comment, I said gently. You lost me because it wasn't the only one. Grant shook his head. I can change. I am changing. I'm in therapy. I see it now, how I took things out on you. I believed him, and that was the hardest part. Because growth doesn't always arrive in time to save what it breaks. There's nothing to fix, I said. I've moved on. Grant's eyes filled again. He looked at Julian like he was searching for an ally. You're really going to do this? He asked him. You're really going to build a life with her, knowing she was supposed to marry me? Julian's voice was calm, unyielding. Nobody owns another person's future, he said. You don't get to reserve her just because you once had a ring. Grant wiped his face with the back of his hand. I hope you're happy, he said, the bitterness returning like armor. We are, Julian replied, and we're not apologizing for it. Grant left without another word. The door closed with a soft click that somehow felt louder than a slam. I stood there for a moment, heart racing, then let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. That was intense, I said. Julian turned to me. You okay? I nodded. Yeah, that needed to happen. Later that night, Julian's mom called. I heard only his side of the conversation, but I didn't need the details. Mom, I'm not apologizing. No, he didn't pursue her for revenge? Yes, we care about each other. No, I won't put my life on hold because Grant's uncomfortable. When he hung up, he looked tired, but resolute. She thinks the timing was bad, he said. Out of respect. I met his eyes. Do you? He didn't hesitate. No, respect isn't waiting to be treated well. Something in my chest loosened. For the first time, I wasn't the one asking for permission to take up space. 6 months after the reunion, life stopped feeling like something I had to brace for. Not in a dramatic way, not all at once. Just slowly, steadily, like a body finally unclenching after being tense for too long. Julian and I settled into something that felt real in the way quiet mornings feel real. Shared coffee, familiar routines, the easy kind of silence that doesn't beg to be filled. We didn't rush the big conversations, but we didn't avoid them either. One night, curled up on the couch with takeout containers balanced between us, Julian said, "I can see myself marrying you." He didn't say it like a proposal. He said it like a truth he wasn't afraid of. My heart thumped, not with panic, not with pressure, just with recognition. "I can see that too," I said. "Just not yet." He smiled. "Same." Grant moved to another city 3 months after the reunion. A job transfer. A fresh start. That's what people said. From what filtered back through the family network, he was doing better. Therapy stuck. The anger cooled into something more reflective. He apologized, to his mother, to a couple of relatives, for the way things had exploded. I appreciated that. From a distance. Family gatherings normalized, but never completely. Julian and I were still invited. We still went. Occasionally, someone would hesitate before speaking. Occasionally, someone would glance around to see if Grant might show up. He didn't. Apparently, he'd made it clear he wouldn't attend events where we were present. It hurt, in a muted way, but it wasn't my guilt to carry. One afternoon, while Julian and I were walking through a farmer's market, my phone buzzed with a notification I didn't expect. A message from Evan, one of Grant's friends. "I owe you an apology. That night at Guy's night, I laughed, and I shouldn't have. I didn't know how to say something in the moment, but I've thought about it a lot. You didn't deserve that." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back, "Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it." Closure doesn't always come from the people who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from the people who finally admit they were wrong to watch. Julian got promoted 2 months later. A quiet celebration. Champagne at home, no big dinner reservations, no curated photos for social media. Just us, barefoot on the balcony, city lights humming below. "Want to go somewhere this weekend?" he asked. Nothing fancy. We ended up in the mountains. Hiking trails, campfires, cheap beer, food that tasted better because we were hungry and happy. It was perfect. One night, sitting by the fire, Julian said, "You know what I love about us?" "What?" I asked. "We don't pretend," he said. "You wear your comfortable sneakers and I think they're cute. You suggest casual places and I have fun. I don't feel like I'm performing." I smiled into the flames. "That's because we fit," I said, "not because either of us changed." Sometimes, late at night, my mind still wanders back to that hallway. The laughter, the stillness, the moment everything cracked open. It was humiliating, painful, but it was also clarifying. It showed me what I'd been accepting, what I'd normalized, what I'd convinced myself was just how relationships are. Grant taught me what I don't want. Julian is teaching me what I deserve. The funny thing is, Grant was right about one thing. Julian does have standards. He has standards for how he treats people, for how he speaks about someone when they're not in the room, for what love looks like when no one's watching. And somehow, without changing a single thing about who I am, I meet them. That's not something I'll ever take for granted again.